Alrighty, welcome back to the Jays Center podcast. Owen Hill, joined as always by Jesse Burrell, following the Blue Jays split of a 4-game series
Mhm.
with the New York Yankees in the Bronx. And Jesse, you and I always talk about how much more fun these pods are coming off a win. Even if they lose 2 of 3, we record right after a win. It feels all the same. Well, we're recording after 2 straight Blue Jays wins after they lose the first 2 of the series. Looked ugly for a second. Looked like you were on the verge of at least losing the series, if not getting swept based on those first 2 games. And here we are talking after a happy series, a series split. You'll take that 10 times out of 10, right?
Hey, we'll take that, especially on the road, especially against a division rival. I would say, Owen, it would be nice to get those wins to win that series against the Yankees. But anytime you're going on the road for 4 and you can take 2, and especially how the Blue Jays won some games in this series too, it showed good response, way to bounce back some pitching performances that we got in this series. Be nice to see the bats come just a little bit more, but for the Blue Jays to manage to find a way to win 2 of those games and conclude a 4-3 road trip, which I'm pretty sure is we would have all signed up for coming in, heading back home now is a very good sign for our Toronto Blue Jays team.
Absolutely, man. I think a 4-3 road trip sums it up perfectly. Was it
Mhm.
pretty? No, not even a little bit, not even close to pretty. It was actually really, really ugly at times. So we haven't touched on this yet, but I was at those first 3 games in the Bronx.
Yep.
Awesome experience, awesome city, New York. As much as I tried to hate it and really didn't want to love New York, man, cool, really cool city. And I hate to say it, but Yankee Stadium, they do it right there, man. Like that is how baseball is meant to be. The fans, say what you want. Some of them, yeah, a little bit obnoxious, but man, they love their baseball and they love their Yankees. And I kind of love them for it. I really like it, really grew on me, honestly, the Yankees vibe in general. And don't worry, it'll be Yankees hate till I die. But there's a newfound respect burned in me. And it's a long winded way of saying that the Jays getting to take the last 2 games of the series really impressed me because, God, those Yankees are a better team than you. And you beat them in a way that I think not that you got lucky. It's not at all what I'm trying to say, but I think in a way that you had to beat that team. Your pitching bared down, and especially in those last 2 games, holding the Yankees to 1 run over 18 innings. That's one of the best offenses in baseball. And you're at the time that your offense is struggling, and you got a guy like Trey Yesavage to go out there and give you the start that he did, and then the bullpen day to day. Braden Fisher and Spencer Miles, especially, and Adam Mako, shout out to the Canadian kid making the debut. I'm going on a tangent here, but man, I just a lot of fun stuff to touch on after this series, Jesse.
Oh, and you're going through every single player we got to run through. You're piling all through them at once. I get it. You're excited. That is fantastic. In the first part of that there, and I almost had to ridicule you about all the Yankees love here. I get it as a fan of Major League Baseball. You know, we understand the Yankees, the history, yada, yada, but we can't be having that Yankee love around here. Like, come on. This is a Blue Jays podcast. We bleed the Blue Jays blue. Yankees will always be last, even if they're a likable team, which I don't think they ever will be. So there's that caveat on the way. You made a comment there about how the Yankees are like a better team than us. And yeah, sure, that's what the standing says. And yeah, sure, they have Cam Schlittler and they have, Ben Rice and Aaron Judge and all that good stuff. But like, are they really? They didn't really seem like the better team go in this series. Both the Yankees wins were 1 run, and we had Springer and Vlad coming up with a chance to win the game in both of those games. Now they didn't, so can't that happened, right? So there is that too. But I'm leaving this series kind of thinking that the Blue Jays and Yankees really aren't that far off from each other.
That's a really interesting way to look at it. I think so. You and I didn't really talk at all throughout this series. Sometimes we shoot some
Yes.
messages in between. I think you and I are kind of coming at this from opposite ends of the spectrum here because I
Interesting.
kind of
Yeah.
looked at this series and I was like, I cannot believe how close these games were. It felt like those first 2 games, especially being at the ballpark, you kind of had no business being in. And I think it's just how the 2 teams kind of do their damage and get their runs. The Jays are scoring on Ernie Clement 3-run homers, which is kind of fluky. And I guess the Yankees are getting them all on slug, and Jazz Chisholm's going off the foul pole. And I guess Ryan McMahon 3-run home run
Ryan
is maybe the
McMahon. Like
that
what?
that's the
Yes.
Ernie Clement equivalent. I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there. Off Dylan Cease, no less.
Mhm.
So maybe you are right, and you were right to be encouraged. I think it's something that the Jays just needed to play better. The only issue is I didn't really see anything in the offense minus the George Springer swing in this fourth and final game that really showed me something was different. And I know that's a really good pitching Yankees team, but at the same time, they're still chasing too much. there's still a lot of easy outs in that lineup. Vlad's not going. Like Dalton Varshaw's hitting in the 3-hole, and you're getting healthier. Nathan Lucas is on rehab, and he had 2 walks in his first rehab game I saw. So that's
And
a
a
step in
dinger.
the right
He
direction.
hit a home run today. Nathan
Did he?
Lucas did. So there's that too. Yep.
That's awesome. So that's a good thing to see. And like I know there's reinforcements coming. Like Lenin Sosa is probably not long for this team, and I think you'd be hard pressed to find someone in Blue Jays land who thinks that's a bad thing. All that to kind of say, I think the Yankees, I think overall are just the healthier, better team right now. I think the fact that you got out of here with a split is something that obviously you'll take. And if you really felt like you were as good or better, you want to take 3 out of 4.
Yes. Now, you would say that the Blue Jays only scored 2 runs in both games 3 and game 4 of this series. You're not going to win many ball games when you only score 2 runs. I get it. And that is probably the overlying theme of the season, of the series, that the Blue Jays just simply aren't scoring enough runs. It happened again here in this series. Several players, and I'm sure we'll dive into them, were very underwhelming at the plate. And I'm sure we'll touch into that. It's amazing to me when John Schneider is calling the at-bat of the year, the Andres Jimenez 11-pitch walk against Cam Schlittler. Great at-bat, by the way. Kudos to Andres Jimenez for doing it. But it's like, come on. If that's what our biggest at-bat of the year is, we need a little bit more as a whole unit.
Well, we know that it wasn't the Dalton Varsho grand slam against Tampa that turned the season around. Is it the Andres Jimenez 11-pitch bases loaded walk off Cam Schlittler? Let me tell you, in the ballpark, the Yankees fans hated that at bat. It got a little bit quieter every time he fouled one off, and we're sitting in our section, and we get a little bit louder every time we got another one. And I think the walk actually probably got the biggest cheer out of Jays fans, maybe in the whole series, at least for me. Really good at bat from Jimenez there, and like kind of won you that baseball game in that pitcher's duel.
Yeah, I mean, he almost went to. If you watch that final thing, he wanted to swing at that last one so bad, but kudos to him. He had enough arm strength to take that, draw the walk. At that point, bases loaded, nobody out still. You had just scored one on top of the order coming out. Springer and Vlad do up. You kind of think, okay, boy, this is a really good chance to break it open. But as we talked about earlier with games 1 and games 2 of the series, where George Springer and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. kind of just had some dreadful at-bats there, it was the same situation with this in game 3, where they had a Vlad sack fly, but couldn't really get anything else across the plate there in those. So did we want to dive further onto those 2 performances or pick someone else performance offensive wise while we're on the topic of offense?
Well, I think if we're going to do offense, it's good. We can do it quick because we've done it the last couple times we recorded, but it has to be Vlad. And it needs to be quick because there's nothing else to say, but is he still not there? He's not doing it yet. And until it's Vlad doing it, until Vladimir, dude, his weighted runs created plus on the season is down to 110. That's below Yohendrick Pinango in a small sample size. It's below Dalton Varsho, and it's just barely ahead of Kazuma Okamoto, who's, by the way, is all the way down to 106. And he's another guy we're going to have to touch on because he's really, really slowed and cooled down recently. But I think the caveat with the offense conversation is I think everyone else has been fine, and there are bright spots, and those are Dalton Varsho and Yohendrick, and at times Kazuma and Miles Straw. Even Jesus Sanchez kind of broke out of it a little bit, although I do have some kind of slanderous takes on how he broke out of it. But at the same time, this conversation has to start and end with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. And when he turns it on, we can start having the conversations that we want to have, because if the pitching staff is going to pitch like the way it has, especially in this series, I think as long as you get Vlad going, you kind of belong in the conversation that we expected them to be in when we opened up this season.
Yeah, and so I looked at the stats of the series for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. because the whole things we have been saying the past few episodes is just he's swinging too much at pitches out of the zone. The contact rate is the contact rate is fine, but it's like he's making contact with those pitches outside of the zone, and we need to see improvement there. And I thought when I looked at the whole box score of the series, I saw he had a few more walks. I'm thinking, okay, maybe this is a sign of things coming around. No, absolutely not. His chase rate this was coming into the game today. So through the first 3 games this series was 50%. He was chasing half of the pitches that were outside of the zone in here. Not ideal. And to make things worse, he made contact on 75% of them. I think he did have a bloop single on a pitch out of the zone today that he swung at, but that's not the Vladimir Guerrero Jr. we want to see. As far as I'm concerned, I really haven't seen much improvement at all. In fact, only Lenin Sosa had a higher swing rate than Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and on the team through 3 games. And that is not where you want to be. So until Vlad we said it so many times, as you said, I'm running out of things to say about it, but until he starts making better swing decisions, this is going to be the type of player we're going to continue to see.
Yeah, and this is a guy that is still walking as much as he strikes out, which is kind of absurd based on how awful his
Yeah.
approach has been. But that's the whole issue. And you mentioned it. He made contact on 75% of the pitches that he chased. That's the problem, is he can't hit those pitches hard, man. And I think
Yeah.
until he is making contact on 85 or 90% of the pitches that are in the zone that he swings at, that's when we start to figure him out. But right now, teams know that he's going to get himself out. The other teams are not getting him out, and kudos to the other teams for recognizing that he'll get himself out. But they don't have to make tough pitchers pitches to get him out. They just have to throw the ball outside the zone, and he'll do it himself.
Yes. While we're on the topic of Vlad, he was hitting in the 2-hole for the first time this year. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. even said, "I'll hit leadoff if this team wants me to." And we kind of saw proof of concept in game 2 when it was Vlad who was hitting in the 2-hole, came up and had that chance with 2 outs in the 9th. Obviously did not come through, but this is the reason why you put Vlad in the 2-hole. I'm not a huge batting order guy myself, but I know you are more than I am. Did you like seeing Vlad in the 2-hole this series, or would you want to move him back to 3?
I just always subscribe to your best hitter should hit second. I want to see him get the most at bats if he's your best hitter. In the past, I've kind of also thrown all my batting order takes out the window, especially last year when as soon as he got moved to a 3-hole, he figured it out and turned it on. So if it's just a mental thing for some guys, I get that. At the same time, I think there is a serious value in getting him more at bats. I don't know the exact percentages, but it's something
I think
like
it's 18 extra at bats a year.
yeah. So exactly 18 extra at bats a year. That's not small. Like that is like how many games is that? If you get 4 at bats a game, that's like 4.5 extra games of Vladimir Guerrero Jr. at bats that could help out your team. And you mentioned it like perfectly in was it game 2 that he came up with the chance to win the game. Obviously didn't get the job done, but like that's life. That's baseball. I think the 2-hole is where he should stay. And honestly, I wouldn't even hate hitting him see leadoff or hate seeing him hit leadoff because like look around the league, man. Like Shohei Ohtani hits leadoff. He's the Dodgers' best hitter by far. Kyle Schwarber did it. Well, he was the Phillies' best hitter. And
Yankees just had Ben Rice do it, right?
And Ben Rice is their best hitter right now because we're talking all this trash about Vlad, man. So I'm a big Raptors fan as well. If you don't know that about me, it's a little like thing that's kind of like I really get to be a fan of basketball more than baseball, where I really like dig in and like analyze the shit out of it. So basketball, I listen to this show, the Hello and Welcome podcast with William Liu. Big fan of their
Love
work.
those guys. Yeah.
Will Liu and Alex Wong are awesome. So shout out to them. But they do this thing every now and then. They haven't done it in a while because the Raptors haven't been as good. But they do the slander pod after a big win. They used to do it against like the Sixers and the Bucks every now and then because the Raptors kind of own those teams in like the 2010s and like are right around the championship era. Anyways, long story short, I think Aaron Judge needs a little bit of a slander pod tonight because, as I said, we're talking all this trash about Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Aaron Judge is just doing it way worse than he is. He had 8 strikeouts or 9 strikeouts in the 4-game series. Did he have a hit? Maybe 1. Not scary at all at the plate, man. Way more scared of Ben Rice in the stadium. Way more scared of even Jazz Chisholm and Cody Bellinger and even Paul Goldschmidt, dude. Like Aaron Judge looks like an absolute pumpkin right now. And Blue Jays pitchers owned him. Trey Yesavage got him 3 times swinging. And then was it Jeff Hoffman or Louis Varland that got him a 4th time? Just absolutely awesome to watch, man. If there's a player that you can hate in baseball, and we talked about maybe giving the Yankees a little bit of slack, no, Aaron Judge doesn't get any of that. And I think he deserves all the trash talk we can give him.
Yeah, I am not upset to see Aaron Judge struggle here. I think he was 1 for 15 in the series as a whole with 7 strikeouts coming in and added another one today. So 8 strikeouts for Aaron Judge. We will take that all time. And even too, like Ben Rice, I think he had a home run early in this season, but he only had 3 hits in this series as well. Like the Blue Jays did do a very good job of keeping some of their better hitters off base, which credit to the scouting report, credit to the pitchers who have been able to do that. It was, like we mentioned earlier, the Jazz Chisholm, the Cody Bellinger, the Ryan McMahon that were really doing damage off of us. And you'll play that every single time. And like, the Blue Jays, good plan of approach against Aaron Judge. I don't think any of us are sitting here thinking, he's washed, he's cooked now, like Trey Yesavage broke him or anything like that. But it was a very good performance. And anytime you can shut down the other team's best player, you got to like your chances of having success in that series.
Especially when that player is Aaron Judge, because you don't do a slander pod for like name a guy like Jose Caballero. Like that guy goes 0 for with 8 strikeouts in a series. Nobody bats an eye. But when it's Aaron Judge and like a guy who is in legitimate conversations and a guy I've called the best right-handed hitter of all time, like that's a legitimate take I've had. And I mean, like it's baseball, man. You're gonna go through stretches like this. But I think when you're doing it against a division rival who knocked you out and popped bottles on your field in October, and this is the type of performance you put up, Judge, man, you got to be better than that. There was no Louis Varland off the foul pole coming for him in this series. And I think like the Jays owning Judge is kind of like the most awesome little narrative swing of all time recently. I really love that we just have him in our back pocket.
You had boots on the ground in Yankee Stadium. Now it was for the first 3 games, but did you hear any, I want to say boos. I doubt they'd boo Aaron Judge, but any like, come on, man, what the hell are you doing here, Judge? Like any of that throughout the stadium?
So I will say the Yankees fans know who they love and they know who they hate, and they are unanimous on all of it because Camilo Duvall comes out of the pen and he throws one ball and everybody's like, he had one good year on the Giants, cut this bum. And like, they're like in their like stupid Bronx accents and all this stuff. And then Ben Rice is coming up to the plate and they're like, this guy's going to be a star someday. I'm like, dude, he like already is a star. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and they like really like Jazz Chisholm, which I was kind of surprised about. Like Jazz Chisholm has had some slander recently and they
for
hate
4 today, 4 strikeouts. So, wow.
Yeah. So maybe they're swinging back on Jazz. Anthony Volpe played his first game off the IL and there was just as many boos as cheers when they welcomed him back, which was kind of awesome. But I will say I was kind of surprised. Towards the end, it was a little bit murmurish, but they pretty unanimously love Judge. And how could you blame him? He is like the everything you want a superstar to be, except for the last, what was it, like 10 days.
Hey, the Yankees are off to play the Tampa Bay Rays now. Aaron Judge can go hit a few home runs off them if that's all he wants to do. As long as he keeps being quiet against the Blue Jays, I am very, very happy with that. Moving on now. Any more offensive stuff? I've got notes on everything. So we could talk offense. We can switch to pitching. Where do you want to take this next?
I think overall, there's not much to say. Like, decent series from Jesus Sanchez, like when you look at the numbers. And then you actually like look at the swings he took. And this is a guy that was brought in because he was supposed to slug. And I haven't seen anything out of him that says he can slug. Then again, he's got the second highest slugging percentage on the team. That's a real stat I just read out. Like, he's got a 426 slug. That is 1 spot behind Dalton Varsho and 1 spot ahead of Kazuma Okamoto. If you're curious, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., the 9th highest slug on the Blue Jays, below Andres Jimenez and Miles Straw, and 1 spot above Nathan Lucas. That's where Vlad is these days. Anyways, I thought that was freaking absurd. Anyways, Jesus Sanchez, at the same time, like, I've kind of had enough of this dude. This is like gimmick where he's trying to become a slap hitter is tiresome. This dude was traded for Joey Loperfido, who I think is a better version of what he is right now. I think I like Joey Loperfido in this approach. I don't want Jesus Sanchez, who's supposed to have elite bat speed and hit monster home runs in this approach. And he's a bad defender.
Yes. Pair all that together, it doesn't go well. But you look at the stat line, Owen, and like you said, for Jesus Sanchez, he was 4 for 6 with a walk. So, like, that's very good. Then you look under the hood here, his average exit velocity was 76.7. It's 13 out of 13 for Blue Jays hitters who had at least 1 plate appearance in this series. His average launch angle is negative 13.3. Like, even when he's getting hits now, it's been quite dreadful for Jesus Sanchez. And it kind of goes into a pair of like some struggling hitters that I wanted to talk about. And I threw some notes here. Now, Kazuma Okamoto, we can check on him in a minute because I want your thoughts on him too. But especially in this series alone, there was Jesus Sanchez who, a few hits, but really struggled under the hood. Davis Schneider, 0 for 7 in this series. Miles Straw, 0 for 9 in this series. And Yohendrick Pinongo, actually a very quiet 1 for 10 in this series. So what do you do now with this Blue Jays corner outfield mix where really none of them, aside from Pinongo before this series, had really seemed to be hitting that well?
Yeah, I don't really know. Wait to get healthy. And like Addison Barger and Nathan Lucas are the guys, the left-handed hitting outfielders that belong on this team. That they are like, this team is actually built around Addison Barger hitting in the cleanup spot, or at least like in the top to middle part of that order. And like you're missing a lot of that. So I understand that. So I can be a little bit lenient there. And Nathan Lucas is a guy that was hitting in the 2 hole in the World Series, like 6 months ago or whatever October and November was. Like this, that's the type of guys you're missing in this lineup. So I get it. At the same time, I don't have answers on any of those, dude. Like Davis Schneider, like I don't know. I don't have anything. I don't know how they turn it around. Unfortunately, like everything that has kind of made Davis Schneider good, he's gotten away from. And like I think this is kind of just like regression to the mean for Miles Straw, unfortunately. Also, still a side tangent, ran into Miles Straw and Louis Varland together in Times
Oh,
Square
no way.
ahead of
Nice.
the third game of the series. Just the two most unassuming big leaguers of all time, although Louis Varland is a massive human being. That dude looks like he throws 100. So I'll say
Yes.
that. Anyways, back to the guys, like even Yohendrick Pinango, like I mentioned that he was going to kind of like start getting pitched a little bit differently. And in this last series against the Yankees, he like was seeing more fastballs. Like he saw 94% fastballs in the third game of the series and 73% fastballs in the second game of the series, and like wasn't really getting any spin to hit anymore. And like I think that's kind of what he was doing his damage on. And like I think they're kind of just beating him with heaters, which is kind of interesting to me. So I don't know. Like obviously, when a guy starts out really hot, like Pinango did, other teams are going to adjust and maybe not even adjust to him, but just do something differently. And I think the Yankees did something differently, and he kind of got punched in the face because of it.
I will say too, though, even though the stat line doesn't look so good, he did have a couple deep fly balls. He had one to Bellinger. He had a
Mhm.
second one on the warning track. So, like, out of all the corner outfield pieces, I'm still very much in on Yohendrick Pinango and still want to see him get more of a run. But I want to know about what's with Miles Straw and Louis Varland at Times Square. Like, what were they doing? Were they just walking around? Were they doing some shopping? Like, what was going on there?
Well, I will say New York City this week was the probably the hottest place on earth. It was so hot, dude. It was like 35
Wow.
Celsius the whole time and sticky. And these guys are just wearing their sunglasses and their shorts and they're walking about in like not just like downtown New York, but like in like Times Square. I think just sightseeing, man. Like we said hi real
Okay.
quick, didn't stop and talk with them. Obviously, you want to let these guys live their lives and
Of course.
like enjoy the city. And it's New York City, man. But I think two just very casual looking dudes out on the streets of New York. And yeah, Louis Varland, I like was shocked how big he was, to be honest with you. Miles Straw
Oh,
could have been just any other dude, and I think
yeah.
that's part of the allure with Miles Straw. That's part of what makes him who he is. Part of what makes Louis Varland who he is that what a specimen.
That's wow. I'm just picturing it now here. Two dudes just hanging out and living their life. Louis Varland. The trees are probably scared of Louis Varland when that arm comes near him or something. They're not like Yusei Kikuchi, who's setting up like a pitcher's mound in Central Park or whatever and throwing in there like he's done before, eh?
So that was the other thing. Like we toured Central Park a little bit, saw it, and the whole time I was like, I wish I had my glove and a ball so I could have a catch and go Yusei
Yeah.
mode ahead of Game 3. And I
Yes.
thought when the Jays had lost the first one, I was like, you know what, we'll save this series going Yusei mode in Central Park. Visited Central Park in day 3. Jays win the next two, so maybe that's what saves the season.
Yeah, hey, the Jays are screw the Dalton Varsho grand slam or the Andres Jimenez 11 pitch at bat. The Jays are 2-0 since Miles Straw and Louis Varland did some sightseeing in Central Park. That is fantastic. All right, back to some of the corner outfielders here. Yes, Miles Straw again 0 for 9, 2 strikeouts. Davis Schneider 0 for 7, 2 strikeouts, or sorry, 2 walks with a bunch of strikeouts, 43% strikeout rate in this series. I really do think the Blue Jays are just going to mix and match. They're going to until Lucas gets back, they're really going to roll with one of these guys. And like the Blue Jays have really been struggling with a lot of their right-handed hitters. And I want to use this as a time now to check in on Kazuma Okamoto because his series was quite dreadful. 1 for 16 in this series. He walked once and struck out 9 times for Kazuma Okamoto. You were there, Owen. You were in person. What did you see from Kaz? What'd you like? What'd you not like?
Well, he looks like himself, and that's kind of the problem, I
Mm,
think, is he swings and misses a lot, dude. Like the whiff percentage is still like above 32% this year. It's 12th percentile. He's striking out. It's in the ninth percentile above 30% as well. It's getting kind of like it's getting kind of ugly, dude. Like I don't know. He has a really hard time with breaking pitches, and I think the move back in the box helped him like briefly. And then like I'm not really sure what's changed since he got hot. Like I'd have to dig in a little bit deeper than I have. Obviously at the ballpark, like you see the results, but you kind of have a harder time recognizing how they got there. Like you're not keeping up to date on every single pitch and what was thrown and how hard it was and what did this hitter do differently? How did that swing actually look? Was he early or late? You know what I'm talking about when I
I
kind of
do.
say like the viewing experience is more complete on TV. I would say it's better in stadium, but I think you get a better idea of what actually happened when you watch from home. All that to say, I think Kazma has kind of fallen back into what he was doing early in the season, if I had to guess. And I think maybe the power kind of got to his head and he's over swinging a little bit and trying to do too much. He knows just as well as anybody that the Blue Jays offense is really struggling for runs. They are desperate for them. And he knows with one swing of the bat, he can put one on the board, at least one on the board. And I think that's kind of getting to him a little bit. And I think they're asking a lot of him, hitting pretty high up in that order. Like this is a guy that ideally is your seventh hitter, eighth hitter, like even sixth hitter. But he's not like your fourth or fifth hitter. Like he's been asked to do a lot recently.
Right. I know coming into the season, we had thought, well, maybe Kazuma Okamoto is going to be like a 115-ish WRC plus player. And that number soared to like 140 during his hot streak. It's down now to 106 on the season. I do think that there is an increase coming, especially if like the BABIP can rise a little bit. But he had like a 43% oh, sorry. No, I'm making that up. He had a 58% contact rate on this series. That's like Davis Schneider level contact rate. Like that is not ideal
That's
here.
really, that's really,
Yeah.
really, really low. That's very low.
Yeah. Especially for a Blue Jays team that has been almost feels like teaching their team to do high contact rates. That is very un-Blue Jays like for Kazuma Okamoto, and would love to see that turn around a little bit going forward. But yeah, that needs to change. Starting to get some more bat on ball, and that's how you'll know the sign is starting to come through for Okamoto.
When the ball's in play for him, it's good. Like it's a 94th percentile average exit velocity, 88th percentile barrel percentage. He's hitting the ball hard more than 50% of the time. Like the dude, when he gets the bat on the ball, is really good. It's just a matter of can you please do it just a little bit more? Maybe strike out 27% of the time instead of 33.
Yes, that would be nice. And I guess to wrap up the offensive performances here, we did get a 3-run home run from Ernie Clements. Loved it. We did touch on that. George Springer he had some bad at bats, but he did have 2 home runs in this series as well. And we haven't touched on Dalton Varsho yet either. Did you have a quick take on any of those?
Yeah, so my dad is he's very, very big Blue Jays fan. Probably like some of my most not progressive, but most like productive Blue Jays conversations come with my dad.
Love it.
And he is a big conspiracy guy as well. And he is
I love that too.
absolutely convinced. And I believe there was a report that this kind of came out. But when Judge was in the midst of that race to tie Roger Maris's record or break the American League home run record, fake record, by the way, that's not a real thing. Anyways, some Judge slander to continue. I think a report came out that he was actually getting like juiced baseballs in his games.
Yes.
And kind of nothing ever really came of that. Like nobody serious ever really reported on it, but it was like a real report, a real article from a real website. I wish I knew it. I wish I had it pulled up. Anyways, my dad to this day is very convinced that Judge still gets Goldilocks baseballs and was convinced that Ernie Clement got one of those Goldilocks baseballs mixed into his at bat, and that helped. That 3-run homer sneak over the wall, just an absolute fluke of a swing. Well, that's kind of how Ernie gets them, man. Like 3-run homers from him, he'll take that 10 times out of 10, and it almost helped you win a baseball game.
I did notice off the bat though, it did hit barrel. Like you could tell, it had that sound of a barreled up baseball. So I also was surprised to see it go over, but I wasn't surprised to see it go as far as it did. I love that. I think it was Chris Bassett actually, who was the pitcher that first led someone or tipped somewhat off to thinking like, hey, maybe these balls are a little different. So there is that. You want to talk a conspiracy theory, Owen, and this is not what we planned when we were talking J Center podcast, but I remember a few seasons ago or even last season, whenever Aaron Judge was at the plate, they'd zoom in on his face. You'd always see his eyes would dart to the right. Like they would look to his first base coach every single time and then back to the pitcher. This was the first series that I had seen Aaron Judge not do that. And I don't know why that is. It could be just a mental, it could be literally nothing. And I hate to come on this pod and come up with a conspiracy that I know nothing about. But he wasn't doing that in this series, and he struggled very mightily this series. Maybe it had something to do with the fact that the first base coach now needs to stand in the box and they can't see it anymore. They can't get a hint on what pitch is coming. Who knows? But that caught my attention. If you want to get into conspiracy mode, that's for your dad there, Owen. He can go with that one.
Yeah, my dad also probably Jason, our podcast biggest fan. He's listening to every episode, so he's gonna have a comment on me calling him out for that later on, I'm sure. But I think actually you hit the nail on the head when you mentioned the coaches having to stand in the box. And I think if you want to talk conspiracy and talk about that, I think we know the Blue Jays are one of the best advanced scouting teams, and we know last year a lot of teams had stuff to say about the Blue Jays having their signs or knowing what pitch is coming and having something on their pitchers or their defense or something along those lines. And you're right. The coaches have to stand in the box this year. And is that contributing to the Blue Jays offense kind of being anemic so far this season? They've been really, really bad. And I think that's something that the Blue Jays did well. Cam Schlittler famously really, really complained that the Blue Jays were the one team that always got to him because he was convinced they had something on him. And I can't help but think maybe that is hurting the Blue Jays just as much as it's hurting Judge.
Hey, who knows? We must be recording late into the morning here if we're coming up with Jace conspiracy theories coming off to why the offense can't hit and whatnot. So there you go. Before we lose all our listeners that are groaning their eyes right now and doing that, let's transition back to some of the pitching performances here that we got in this series. And Owen, 4 games, 4 very different pitching performances here. Take it away with who got your attention the most.
Okay, so was Dylan Cease game 1 or was it Corbin game 1?
It was Corbin game 1, Cease was game 2.
Okay, so Corbin was game 1, and he kind of looked like Pat Corbin to me. Obviously, Pat Corbin against the Yankees is nightmare fuel, even though they've got all those left-handed hitters. You don't really feel good about it. And Paul Goldschmidt hitting the leadoff home run. We just get settled into our seats in Yankee Stadium for the first time, walked around the field. We're like, wow, this is cool. They're doing it right here. Yankees fans are like, oh, Blue Jays fans behind us? Oh, you guys are in for a long night. Goldschmidt homers on the first. Was it the first pitch? I don't know. I think it was
first pitch of the game. First pitch of the game. Yeah.
And we all kind of just put our heads in our hands and are like, oh my God, here we go. And from there, he kind of did settle down. The final line, 4 innings, 3 earned, 3 walks, 3 Ks, only gave up the 1 homer in Yankee Stadium. You'll take that from Pat Corbin. And I think that's kind of what he's being asked to do. This guy is eating innings and again, nothing about it's pretty. I don't enjoy watching anything about Patrick Corbin, but he has very much kind of settled this Blue Jays pitching staff down. And he getting through 4 innings there is a big reason how you win this 4th game of the series, because your bullpen is in good enough shape to run out a bullpen day with Spencer Miles as the bulk guy. If Pat Corbin only gets through 2 innings there or lets that first inning blow up on him, you cannot do that today. And Louis Varland is down as well as probably Jeff Hoffman and Tyler Rogers. And Braden Fisher has to pitch 3 days in a row. And it gets really ugly really quick. And shout out to Pat Corbin for doing what he does.
Sure, I understand your point here. And getting through that 2nd inning was key because he did walk some guys. He got out of a bases loaded jam there that could have blown up in his face and been a lot more ugly. But man, we're looking at Patrick Corbin to be a 5 and dive for this Blue Jays team. And right now he can't even get to 5. He can't even do the 5 and dive. And look, you'll take the games that you got from Patrick Corbin. A few starts ago, we had even made the comment of yeah, I think it's starting to fall apart for Patrick Corbin here. And I think it really is starting to fall apart even more for Patrick Corbin. The win day that we joked about for Corbin, well, they've lost 3 of his last 4 starts. They're now 4 and 5 in starts that Patrick Corbin has had. And look, with Eric Lauer gone, he's still going to get more of a run here. But I think I'm out almost fully on Patrick Corbin going forward.
Unfortunately, there are just no other options. If you lined up the fully healthy Toronto Blue Jays rotation at the start of spring training and added Pat Corbin's name to the list, would he be the 9th pitcher on your starting pitching depth chart? Probably. Unfortunately, Eric Lauer turned into an absolute pumpkin. The clock struck midnight on him after an awesome 2025, and he pitches for the Los Angeles Dodgers now. I'm excited to see what his first appearance looks like there. Jose Barrios is a guy we haven't mentioned yet, is down with Tommy John surgery, or at least UCL surgery, and we're not going to see him for 12 to 18 months, which is pretty disappointing for a guy that like his whole thing was being the Iron Man. Aside from that, Shane Bieber, like we've been not hearing much on him. We're almost through May here, Jesse. Like I'm going on vacation. The next time we're going to talk is going to be June, and there are still no Shane Bieber updates. All that to say, Pat Corbin, like whatever you get from him is gravy, man. Like this is a guy like you know what you're getting. You signed him for like $1 million. Unfortunately, like you're right. They've lost 3 in a row. If they want to be a serious baseball team, Pat Corbin's probably not pitching for them. Unfortunately, that's not really a luxury they have right now. And I think what he's giving you, along with what, and I'm going to have some bad things to say about Cease, but what he's giving you with, for the most part, what Cease does, what Gosman does, and what Trey Yesavage is doing, and mix in the Spencer Miles day, I think it's okay. I don't think it's as bad as you're making it out to be, I'll say.
Right. So, okay. So Patrick Corbin is not the reason this team is as bad as we've been all the season. I know that. I think a lot of people do know that. And if you do the math on like, well, you pay about $10 million to get one more of production, as long as Patrick Corbin gives you 0.1 more, which I haven't looked, but he had prior to this start had given you that in more. So you're already looking at this as you're getting positive return on your value. I hate describing players as valuable and assets and stuff, but that's kind of the front office world that they live in. Anything else you get from Patrick Corbin is gravy. So the Blue Jays are getting gravy per se, if you will. So that has been good. But I agree. If you're trying to get out and win your games, I don't know how confident I am that Patrick Corbin is the one to do that. But the main point stands. There's no one else really coming in to replace him. So we're going to rely on it and hope he can just get to 5 and dive a little better.
Yeah. Well, Bieber will be around eventually. Like that, he will pitch for this team, hopefully.
He is throwing to Kirk right now, isn't he? Like on backfields? I'm pretty sure I saw that somewhere.
I hope you did, because that would be awesome. You need him.
Let me confirm
you
that,
really like Shane Bieber, even if he's not the Cy Young version of himself. Shane Bieber being back and contributing to this team actually completely changes your outlook every 5th day. I think allowing Pat Corbin to be a long man guy or cut him loose or whatever you do with him, Shane Bieber, just the floor is much higher, and I think the ceiling is obviously much higher as well. And if you get a healthy version of him, you could set himself up for a big second half and really, I think, launch this team to where they belong.
Blue Jays manager John Schneider said Wednesday that Bieber could begin pitching in rehab games by the end of next week, quote, if all goes well. So 2 weeks away from a rehab assignment. Once you're in a rehab assignment, that's 30 days at most, and then you're back in the big league. So by July, by Canada Day, we can start seeing Shane Bieber, assuming no setbacks. He had a setback on a rehab assignment coming through Cleveland last year, but that looks like the timetable as of now for Shane Bieber.
Yeah, second Raptors reference of the podcast. We're going to remember Bruno Caboclo, who was famously 2 years away from being 2 years away for eternity.
Yes.
It feels like Shane Bieber has been 2 weeks away from being 2 weeks away for this entire season. Here's to being optimistic, but I don't know. Sometimes I have a hard time believing that. Like at this time next week, John will be saying, yeah, like if all goes well, end of next week. Like, you know what I mean? Just kick the can down the road one more time. But I know what you're saying, and they need him. He would really help.
And on the point of rehab assignments, Jimmy Garcia got into one and apparently had a little bit of a setback as well on his little climb back. So I did have a Jimmy Garcia thought during the series. It's like this Blue Jays bullpen does feel like it's one high-end reliever short, and Jimmy Garcia would fit in that role well. But obviously, like Shane Bieber, a long way to go before we see him back on this roster, even though if he is pitching in minor league games at the moment. So thought that. Owen, anything else on that, or Dylan Cease?
Yeah, Dylan Cease. I have some not nice things to say. He kind of like really disappointed me in that starting against the Yankees. Your team is grinding for runs. They're really struggling. And you shove 3 across in the top of the 4th inning, give yourself a 3-0 lead with your ace on the mound. That game should be done and dusted. Unfortunately, you go up 3-0, and it's not in the 1st inning. Like it's in the 4th inning. We're well into this game. You got a 3-run lead, and your dog, Dylan Cease, this is the guy that you paid over $200 million to over 7 years, and he kind of gives it right back right away. And that really sucked. And it's a home run to Ryan McMahon the other way on a fastball. It wasn't a terrible pitch, but you just can't get beat like that. It's 2 walks that score ahead of it. And that's the serious problem with Cease. And feels like a lot of times he'll mow through the order the first time, and then second time he tries to get really cute. He was throwing so many changeups in this outing, and I'm sitting in the stands watching every time, and I can see the changeup from the stands. A good changeup, you can only tell in the stadium. You can tell from the swing. You can't tell from like what the pitcher's doing or what the pitch is actually moving. It's so much lower. Like he threw some in the 70s, Jesse, and it
Yeah.
worked the first time through, but then it felt like he was kind of relying on it just a lot the second time through, and everybody had seen it at that point, and it wasn't really fooling anybody. So I think he got really changeup heavy, which didn't help him, and then his command kind of like was lost on the other pitches, and I don't know. Did you see anything with Cease?
Well, I'm looking at the stats on the thing here. The changeup, he only threw one to a righty, but he threw 8, so 10% of his pitches to lefties. But yeah, the velo was way down there. And Dylan Cease, like we talked in spring training about him trying to master that changeup, and at times this season it has looked quite good. This one, he actually got 4 whiffs, so all 4 times batter swung at it, they missed it. But you know, there's that. I did think it was weird that he was throwing the velocity down on the changeup. It reminds me a lot of the changeup he was throwing in his year in San Diego, where he was trying to get it, and it was very, very slow. And it felt like the Blue Jays had got him past that, and it was kind of eerie to see him go to that today. The actual thing about Dylan Cease pitch mix is that I found he was a lot more fastball slider heavy in this series. Now, he wasn't throwing as many strikes with the fastball, and Dylan Cease post game said something along the lines of, "I feel like when I need to get a strike, I can do it by throwing the slider." But that is what made Dylan Cease so hittable in the past, is he had become too fastball slider reliant. And over his big stretch of like dominance run, we've really seen that sinker, that curveball, that changeup come in a little bit more. And in this series, it didn't happen so much. So the Yankees, I felt like, could sit on one of those 2 pitches and have more damage against it. And that's how they scored a lot of their home runs against Cease. So I would love to see that pitch mix diversify a little bit more into his next appearance.
Yeah, I think you explained it much better than I did. Obviously, getting eyes on him on the TV, and I think that goes right back to the point I was making earlier. You really get to appreciate the game more and really understand the process better like that. And I think you kind of nailed it. For me, just absolute baseball vibe, like bird's eye view. Like I said, you score 3 runs with your guy on the mound. You can't
Yeah.
give it back right away. And he
Yeah.
gave it back right away in that inning, got through it, and then gave up 2 more in the 5th. And the team was dead from there. And like they had that little fake comeback gimmick at the end. Like they did the
Yes.
same thing in the first game of the series as well, which was really, really frustrating in the ballpark, let me tell you. But like I will say, like it just that's something you can be okay with from like even Trey Yesavage, who's a young guy, or Spencer Miles or Pat Corbin, I guess. That's
Mhm.
not like that's off limits for your guys. And that's Kevin Gosman, I'll throw into that boat, but it's especially Dylan Cease. He can't do that. He just has to be better than that. And like this isn't a Dylan Cease slander pod like it is for Judge. His ERA on the season is now up to 2.98 after 5 innings, 5 earned in 5 innings. So like he's fine. He's maybe not on Cy Young watch as much anymore. Obviously, he can work his way back to that probably pretty quickly. But I think just like really disappointing start from Cease in a game that would have been like you probably should have won that baseball game, and it looked like 1-3 or 4 here.
Yeah, I agree. And Dylan Cease bounces back much better. You can kind of find a way to get that a little bit better. I believe his next start comes in the finale against Pittsburgh, so we'll see how he bounces back against that one there. And before we touch on Yesavage and Spencer Miles in the bullpen day, I want to say what's the adjective I want to use? A hearty, a celebratory welcome to the big leagues to Adam Macko, who thoroughly impressed me in this series, making his big league debut. He came in to face a tough patch of lefties, and I thought that curveball looked really good for him. Was able to get through it in the game today, coming in and getting those 4 outs. I don't know if you saw, because he might have been on a plane at this point, but he struck out, I believe it was, I forget who it was, but he struck out his guy and immediately starts walking to the dugout, because I think John Schneider had said that, like, you're done after you face this guy. We're going to Spencer Miles at this point. Vladdy standing at first base going, dude, there's 2 out. There's 2 out. There's not 3. And I found that very amusing. So you can tell the rookies going through it mentally a little bit, but his stuff on the mound looked quite filthy. And with Joe Mantiply hitting the IL in this, Adam Macko is now your second lefty out of the bullpen. And so far, so good. He's passed his first test in the big leagues.
Absolutely. I think one of my favorite parts about like being at the baseball game and at Rogers Center, they tell you in Toronto, they tell you who's warming up in the bullpen. There's a sign on the
Yeah.
bullpen door or whatever. And you can see it in Yankee Stadium. I have no idea. So I'm squinted from my seat being like, who you got up, John? Like who's coming in?
Right.
And I'm like, is that flu? Oh shit, it's Mako. Oh no. And just an
Mhm.
absolute nail biter of a game. And I'm like, oh God, bad spot for a big league debut. And he was nails. And shout out to the kid. Obviously, like tiny sample sizes. It's relievers. They've never seen him before. Like word will get out on him, whatever. But you look like you kind of have a guy here, and he's throwing like relatively hard from the left side. It's got a funky little angle, and like you said, like he really knows what he's doing with that big breaking ball. And if he can like consistently locate that the way he has in his first couple outings here, you might have a legit lefty. And Brendan Little keeps getting shoved down the depth chart, which is interesting because I think like the AAA numbers are looking better for him, and he's probably close to earning himself a spot back on this big league roster as well. So a lot of lefty depth for the Jays.
Struck out 2 of the 5 batters he faced, gave up 1 little hit and very small sample, keep it in mind, but a 60% ground ball rate and a 1.91 FIP. Good stuff
That'll play.
out of Maka. So that will play. All right. I can't believe we've waited 45 minutes into this podcast to talk Trey Yesavage, but Owen, he did it. He came through with that filthy dominant performance. And I thought it'd be interesting because if there's one team in baseball aside from the Dodgers who have probably seen Trey Yesavage a lot, it would be the New York Yankees. And there was this whole caveat about, oh, he's untrajectable or whatever. They finally get to face him at home in Yankee Stadium. Yeah, it didn't matter. Trey Yesavage absolutely went out and shoved. He looked nasty for really the first time this season where he really put it all together. Excellent, excellent stuff from Trey Yesavage. I'm blown away with how good this kid is.
Yeah, so I will say Schlittler versus Yesavage lived up to all the hype. It's
Mhm,
that
mhm.
graphic of Scherzer versus Kershaw. Is that the graphic? I think it is.
Sure.
And uh, it was awesome, dude. 8 strikeouts from Trey over 6 innings, only gave up 2 hits, dominant. He is everything you want him to be. He's just ahead in every single count. Every single count was 0-1, 0-2, or 0-1, 1-1, 2, like 1-2 again. He is just absolutely mowing through guys. Didn't really give up any hard contact. Had the slider going as well as the splitter, and was finally locating his fastballs. Didn't walk a guy in the outing. I think Trey Savage, like I think we knew the floor was pretty high with him kind of all along. College pitcher out of the draft. We kind of knew he was going to be a quick riser. It was going to be how high's the ceiling. And that was kind of what remained to be seen. And it still remains to be seen. We don't know. But he's showing me just so much in such a short time. And it's hard not to really dream on the kid.
Yeah, fantastic with the first pitch strikes. In fact, with the slider and fastball, he threw 12 of 15 first pitch strikes when he led with one of those 2 pitches. So the splitter, not so much, but the splitter is not a strike throwing pitch. So good stuff there from Trey Savage. The fastball velocity actually up about a mile per hour in this one too, which you like to see from a guy who's coming back from the injuries and whatnot, painting that at the top of the zone a little bit, just absolute filthy stuff. And I didn't see as many like pitches spiked into the dirt or uncompetitive fastballs and whatnot. I really thought we started to see more of a complete Trey Savage, which, hey, good luck to whoever's next in the rotation, whether it's Miami or Pittsburgh, because I think he's locked in right now.
Absolutely. The lack of uncompetitive pitches really, really was noticeable, even from like my seat in Yankee Stadium. And yeah, I think that is really what it is. And I was a little bit lower on Trey coming into this season. I was expecting a fair bit of regression as he got around a little bit. And in his rehab starts, I was kind of vindicated in that. I was like, well, like he's still 23 years old. Like it's his second ever big league season and he's coming off an injury. But since he's got up to the big leagues, like this kid is he's ready for the bright lights. And I call him a kid as if he's not like just old, like barely older than I am. Like, anyways, I think I think he's kind of got it. And I think a guy that kind of rises to the occasion on a team that at times this year has kind of struggled doing that. I think that's a good thing. And this guy loves pitching when it really matters.
I agree. Were you more impressed from him this series or what we saw from Spencer Miles in the game today? 4 1/3. I think he struck out 6. Great stuff from Spencer Miles. What'd you like for him?
Well, you asked who I was more impressed with. It's Trey. Like
Yes.
Trey doing it
Yes.
as a starter in 6 innings
Okay.
pitched. and only gave up the 2 hits. Like Trey's more impressive to me, and I think it's just he's more fun to watch, more swing and miss stuff. But Spencer Miles has just absolutely turned himself into a guy for me in my eyes. And like again, it's such a small sample size, and he's still got openers going in front of him, and like all the caveats do apply here. At the same time, like all you can do is look at the results that he's put up, and dude has been so good. It was one thing when he was doing against the Tigers and the Angels, but now going into Yankee Stadium in the Bronx and not just like shutting down the Yankees, but shutting down the Yankees in a 1-run game for 4 1/3. Dude, it was that's awesome from Spencer Miles. What'd you see that you liked from him?
Best outing of his career by far. Got up to 63 pitches from Spencer Miles, which you would have told me coming into the season, one, that he'd even be on the roster, and two, that he'd have that many pitches in an appearance, and then three, that he would be effective. Boy, that's absolutely crazy. His updated numbers on the season now: 29 innings pitched, 2.17 ERA, a FIP that's right in that ballpark as well, 29 strikeouts, 8 walks. I do feel like the workload will eventually catch up to him, and I hate pouring water on that fire right now, but until it does, I think you let him go, and the Blue Jays have got to be loving what they're getting from Spencer Miles right now. Amazing to me that he didn't get the win in this game. They gave the win to Mako, so shout out to Mako for your first big league win. But the win stat, especially for pitchers, is kind of stupid anyway. But tough luck, I guess, not to win for Spencer Miles, even though he was the most valuable pitcher in the game today.
Yeah, so Spencer Miles on the season, the win stat is going to be what it's going to be, but I think the kid will take the fact that he's got a 2.17 ERA in 29 innings pitched, and he's striking out 9 per 9 innings. It's like he's doing everything you want him to do, and I know you're probably right when you say the workload will catch up to him. This is a guy that has now doubled the amount of career innings he had in pro baseball in this season alone in the big leagues, which is kind of a nuts, like, fun fact stat. I can't believe this guy's a Rule 5 pick. Like, the Giants are kicking themselves right now, not adding this guy to the roster. And I can't blame him. Like, all he's ever been was hurt. But, like, I just have a hard time not dreaming on him. Like, he's just been so good. And it was one thing, like I mentioned, to do it against the Angels and the Tigers, but that Yankees lineup has a lot of really good hitters and really good left-handed hitters at that.
Yeah.
Like you're talking like the Ben Rices and the Cody Bellingers and the Jazz Chisholms. Those guys eat right-handed pitchers for breakfast. And like Miles had them in his back pocket all night.
Yeah, and the big weapon he's used was that curveball. I've been incredibly impressed. Like the curveball, to be able to have that location on it, he has a 116 location plus on that curveball, which is absolutely insane for any pitcher, much less a young pitcher who's barely got any big league experience. To be able to locate the curveball as well as he has been able to has been absolutely phenomenal. This is probably a story for the offseason, but seeing Spencer Miles have his success makes me wonder if the Blue Jays should be more aggressive with their pitchers that they have in their farm system. But that's a conversation for another day, just because Spencer Miles is having so much success here. So worth noting there.
Well, it's kind of interesting that you bring it up because, and obviously the tiniest of sample size ever, but like Adam Mako coming up and immediately contributing and getting big outs. And that's the kind of thing that you see teams like the Rays and the Dodgers do year over year is their depth performs and their depth is good and they can actually contribute. And the Jays are actually getting a lot of that on the pitching side of the ball. On the offensive side of the ball, it's just an absolutely complete other story. Lenyn Sosa and David Schneider, your depth guys, and Jesus Sanchez, and like go on down the list have been absolutely horrendous. But on the pitching side, you've really turned yourself into an organization where like you have guys that can actually come up and contribute in big ways and get big outs on big stages. And they've done that so far. And I think I'm a little bit worried about Miles. Like you mentioned, the workload. Unfortunately, they're not really in a position to ease him into things because they need everything they can give him, right? He can give them.
I agree. And then I guess to wrap up the pitching conversation, some of the guys in the bullpen, we saw Jeff Hoffman get his first save in a month in the finale here. Didn't throw a single fastball. And all sliders and splitters for Jeff Hoffman in the game today. He hung one I believe it was to Bellinger, who ripped one down the line that Vladdy caught and then got 2 strikeouts on top of that. Louis Varland pitched well. We saw him in the 7th inning at one point in this series. I like that. And then the rest of the guys, including like the new guy, Chase Lee, Mason Fluharty, Brendan Fisher, Yariel Rodriguez, who was terrible in his one appearance. What did you like from the rest of the bullpen here?
So I think in this series, like you kind of got 2 bad pitching performances, maybe 3 if you count Corbin. But Cease was bad and Corbin was bad, and Yariel Rodriguez is the other reason you lost game 1. And I have to say, like the theatrics of him coming out of the bullpen again. I mentioned squinting down from the 200 level, trying to see like, oh, who's coming in. This guy comes out of the bullpen like skipping, hopping up and down, stops right outside the open bullpen door with a mouthful of water and sprays it up in the air like he's LeBron James with the chalk. If you know what I'm talking about, you can picture it vividly in your mind. Yariel Rodriguez is doing that like he's like, I don't even know, like Stone Cold Steve Austin. Like it's a WWE entrance almost for him. And he immediately comes in and gives up 2 2-run homers and blows a baseball game, turns a 2-run lead into a 2-run deficit. Pretty pathetic. I see why the Blue Jays decided they did not want you on the 40-man roster, Yariel Rodriguez. Is there anything else on the pitching side that you wanted to touch on?
No, but I did want to talk a little bit about Yariel Rodriguez here. It's amazing he got 1 out in this series, and the Blue Jays did not pitch him again in this series in a day that included a bullpen day. And Yesavage was great, and Cease gave you what he was, but he didn't see the field again. And I wonder if then maybe that might mean something. I think they do have to slip him down through waivers again if they try to do just that. So we'll see if that is the route they want to go. So I thought that was quite interesting. I already mentioned my Hoffman piece. Chase Lee is just a guy for me, as far as I'm concerned. I think he only got in, faced one guy, and didn't give up a run, but the under the hood numbers look terrible. He had a FIP of 21 in this series in a terribly small sample size. So take that for what you will from Chase Lee. It would be nice to see some bullpen improvements here. But that's hard to say because they have been so good. So just the back end of the bullpen here.
Yeah, I think, and you touched on it, like they are missing Jimmy Garcia, and they knew they were going to be missing him, but you're right. And bullpens, this front office has historically loved to try and build bullpens throughout the season. Remember the year they traded for Trevor Richards and, oh my God, Adam Simber. Yes, thank you. Like very early, it was like June or May when they traded for those guys to like very much stabilize a struggling bullpen. And like the Louis Varland trade last year, they traded for their most used reliever in the playoffs mid-season. Like they love to do this and trade for a reliever at the deadline. Remember, they traded for Jordan Hicks. Jordan Hicks when he was throwing 102, 103 still. Like that guy was a Blue Jay via trade. They love to do this, and they love to enter the season with some flexibility on the bullpen side to add an arm. And they're going to add one at some point as long as they stay close enough to this wild card race, which they're 23 and 27 right now. They've got some work to do to prove that they are worthy of adds even to the bullpen at this point. But yeah, I think you're right. And I think maybe, and this, we don't have enough time for this conversation, but I think maybe we'd feel differently if Tyler Rogers was the same guy with the exact same numbers, but he threw 99.
Right. I think so too, but that's kind of the lure of Tyler Rogers. There's the argument of him in the postseason if you need a strikeout and whatnot, but again, conversation for another day about Tyler Rogers. Owen, unless you have anything else, I just have some rapid fire questions about your trip in New York. But if you had anything else baseball-y related here, hit me before we.
We're gonna be here all night because I could talk about this New York trip forever. It was an awesome time, but hit me with them. I would love to talk more.
Okay, is that whistle that plays after a Blue Jay strikeout just as annoying in real life as it is on TV?
It made me so mad. Thank you for bringing that up. Mm-hmm. The whistle is one thing. It's really annoying. I'm already mad, and then I hear that every time, and I hate it. It's almost as bad as the Star Wars thing. Like the horn, it's like screeching sound. I'm not even going to try and recreate it, but like whenever they get 2 strikes and 2 outs, it plays and the crowd gets loud, and I'm just like, oh, because like they're feeding off it, and it feels like it's inevitable. And I don't know if there's game ops that I think the Yankee Stadium game ops was just way better than the Rogers Center game ops. I hate to say it, but it was more music and less interactive stuff. There was the AOs and the stuff like that, but it was more sound effects and less like telling me what to do. Like I don't need to be told to clap my hands or get
Yeah.
loud. Like I can do that
Yeah.
myself. I'll do that if the team's playing well. You know what I'm saying? But if I think the Yankee Stadium game ops, as annoying as they were, I think they work quite well.
Yeah, the Blue Jays game ops. I mean, I've only been to, I believe, 3 other major league stadiums. So like my experience is quite low on what it is. But yeah, I can't imagine the Blue Jays have a good game ops here. I bet that that might be a conversation we can touch into in the off season here.
Absolutely.
Other Yankees related thing. Did you get to go through Monument Park at all?
Did you know you have to pay to enter Monument Park?
Oh,
This is the worst part about capitalism. You have to pay to enter Monument Park, and I think that kind of sums up the Yankees as an organization. That's how they afford this massive payroll every year. It's because fans are paying to go into that. That's terrible. I'm not paying to see just that the most Yankees love. Like I respect them more after this trip than I did entering it. At the same time, I'll never respect them enough to give them some of my money to look at how great their history is, even though most of it happened before the color barrier was broken.
and then my last question before we wrap up here is like if you could take one thing from the Yankees or the Yankee Stadium or your experience there and bring it back into Toronto that the Blue Jays could have, what would it be?
This is a weird one, but there's this bar. It's called Billy's, and it's across
Mm,
the street from the stadium. You get off the subway, you get off the train, right outside. It's called the stop is Yankee Stadium, and you walk down, and there's this bar. It's called Billy's, and it's like a young person like dancey bar. The music's way too loud. I don't know
love
if
it.
it's for everybody. And I'm not even really sure it's for me. It's a good time, probably more fun after a game, maybe not a pregame thing. But I will say the Rogers Center is sorely lacking in next door bars. If there was a cheap place for young people to get drinks before the game, even if it was owned by Rogers and owned by the Blue Jays, I think that would do numbers for it. Like the rec room is such a missed opportunity, that location. I think if you could just absolutely jam like 1,000 Jays fans in there pre and post game, I think the entire city nightlife and even weekend life would just be completely transformed.
You saying you're not grabbing a 6 pack and going into Ripley's Aquarium to watch some sharks and getting drunk or whatever in with the fishies or anything like
No,
that outside of
that's not
Rogers
my
Center?
vibe. That is
Yeah,
not my vibe. It maybe if
no,
I'm a family of 5 one day, but yeah, I'm okay on that.
I love that. That's all I got, Owen. Send us away here.
Awesome, man. Okay, we're gonna preview the Pirates series very
Oh
quick.
yes, that.
They're coming to Toronto. We're gonna have Kevin Gosman against Bubba Chandler. Bubba Chandler, all the talent in the world. No idea where it's going. So very interesting matchup with the Jays, who have all the talent in the world and love to swing at pitches where they have no idea where it's going. So if the Jays can force them into the zone, I think it could be a real opportunity for like them to be forced into an adjustment. I think it's like not enough time to get this takeoff, but I think this Bubba Chandler matchup could be all the right things for them. And then of course it's the dreaded Patrick Corbin versus Paul Skeens. At least if Patrick Corbin on, I think we're gonna coin it lose day from here going forward. It
Sure.
was
Yep.
win day, it's lose day now. If you're gonna have lose day, you may as well have it against Paul Skeens. So it would be a miracle if they can get that one. And then Dylan Cease against Mitch Keller. I think the Jays, like you got to take this series. They've actually been playing like kind of better baseball recently. They won, what was it, like 4 of 6 or something along those lines. So keep it rolling with another series win at home. What do you think about this series?
Yeah, it'll be good to see old friend Spencer Horwitz back in town, coming in
Mm-hmm.
here with the Pirates. It'll be nice to see him. The Pirates are at 26 and 24. They're fifth in the NL Central, and the Blue Jays 23, 27, third in the AL East. So figure that one out. But I'm with you. I like the call on Bubba Chandler. I feel like that's going to be the real swing game in this series. If we can get our bats right and Kevin Gosman does what Kevin Gosman does, then the Blue Jays could win that game. I think Pittsburgh's going to win game 2, and I like Dylan Cease against Mitch Keller in game 3 to favor the Toronto Blue Jays. I will say, if you're just a baseball fan in general on Saturday, go watch Paul Skeens pitch, man. He has been on a whole nother level. He's taken no-hitters deep into games, and if you want a chance at seeing history, Saturday afternoon, Paul Skeens in town might be one of the best pitching performances you can ever see here at Rogers Center.
Yeah, we've been absolutely spoiled by pitching. Yesavage versus Schlittler was like that's Sunday night baseball stuff right there. That's the big time. If there's something bigger than that, it's Paul Skeens. Paul Skeens coming into town is like if you're watching the NBA these days and you're loving what you're seeing from Victor Wembanyama, Paul Skeens is
Mhm.
probably the Victor Wembanyama equivalent. Like a little bit of a stretch there. Cross sport comparisons always get weird, but
Paul
That
Skeens, the
is,
alien. Love it.
yeah, but that's what he does, man. Like this is like a talent, like really we've not really seen. I mean, like maybe we've seen before, but in a long time, and he's a special pitcher. So, hey, man, maybe the Jays can rough him up a little bit. Would love to see it, but I think if you're a baseball fan, enjoy this series. I think it'll be a good one, and I think the Pirates are kind of a likable team. They're kind of a little bit lovable loser vibes. They've been a little bit better this year. A team you kind of like to see succeed. So yeah, I think a fun matchup this weekend.
My men's league team is the Pirates, and we are very much after the Pittsburgh Pirates team. So I have a lot of Pirates gear, so they will always kind of be my second favorite team or whatever. I'm gonna go off a jump here and say my surprise player of the series. I'm gonna give it to Yohendrick Pinongo. I think we start to see the power bat. I think we get another home run from him. I like seeing a big thing from him. Give me a name of a player you expect to pop.
Vladimir Guerrero Jr. off Paul Skeens. And with that, we are
Oh
going
my
to
God.
say we're gonna say thank you for tuning in and listening to this episode of the J Center podcast. It's been Owen Hill, joined as always by Jesse Burrell. I really do hope you enjoyed. If you did, please give us a like, comment, subscribe, 5 stars, tell a friend, check us out on social media, do all that stuff. Really helps us out. We love doing this. We were having such a fun time. Quick programming note. This is going to be the last time I talk to you for a while. I'm going to Spain with the girlfriend, so I'll be keeping up with the Jays. I'm definitely going to have lots of thoughts when I come back early in June. Jesse's going to be taking good care of you guys, maybe some special guests coming in. So it'll be all right. The content will survive. But I'm looking forward to that. And Jesse, it's been a pleasure talking about this series. So thank you.
Have fun in Spain. We will keep the show afloat while you are gone. And who knows? We might get a little wild or a little crazy and mix things up a little bit while we're gone. But the one thing is for sure, the Blue Jays content will still keep coming. So look forward to that in your feeds.
Amazing. Awesome. Thank you, Jesse. And thank you to everyone for listening. We'll talk soon.
Cheers.